another one is playing the game. Basically, if you are not tied together with people through your blood and your birth and being part of a group and so on, how do you interact with people? And the English interact with people by playing the game. So why was it that half my life and thought until the age of 20 was about games and sport? I mean, even at fairly good intellectual schools, the schoolwork didn't really matter so much. It was rugger, football, cricket, marbles, conkers. That's what mattered. Being a good Englishman was being a good sportsman. Now, being a good sportsman was not so much about your skill at kicking the ball or catching the ball or whatever. It was the spirit of the game. Because what I detected very, very early on is what games are about are relationships. They're not about winning and losing particularly. They're about the relationships with other people in your team and the people in the other team. They are guided by a set of rules. What you have is that you are in a bounded space with a set of rules. And you have to find the spirit of the game. How do you perform well in it? And you perform well in it, not by doing the other side down or outcompeting your friends and your team, but by building good relationships with people. The great moment in a game when you're playing football is the pass. When you find the person who's through there and you send it through to them and they score the goal, you set it up. Or you are in the right place and it comes to you and through that. So, and you can of course win by cheating, but then you haven't won. You haven't. And so I learned that it didn't matter so much about winning and losing, though I found it difficult to lose at first. I found the spirit of the game. And then, of course, what you find is that that applies not, why it was important, was that it doesn't apply mainly to football and cricket. It applies to everything. It applies to your family life. You don't get on by being nasty to your children or your spouse or to your cousins or something. If you are kind and cooperative and you work together, then life will be better for all of you. It's not a zero-sum game. And I learned that in every form or branch of my life, particularly in academic life, that you don't get on in the department by pushing one of your colleagues down. You get on by encouraging. You don't get on by showing your students that you are cleverer than them. You get on by telling them that they're very clever, but they could be even cleverer. In other words, the side of life which Adam Smith talked about, social love. Adam Smith's combination of self-love and social love. Games are about learning the balance between social love and self-love, playing the game as well as you can, but also, and therefore another thing about Englishness is playing the game. And that takes you into the whole field of law and justice and so on, which is very important in England. So I think it could go on forever, but those were three things. And what really, those and other things made me begin to realize that you have a difficult situation, as we discussed before. If you make too much of the English peculiarity, then people, as I have been accused and people are accused, you're a little Englander. You think you are better than us.
Yeah.
There are Europeans had one of them said, for example, people who live in corners always think of themselves as special. And the British live in a corner, so they, you're no British better than us, etc. Emphasizing difference doesn't need to lead to emphasizing superiority. Mm. It's a recognition of difference, but if you build that with a tolerance of difference, then it doesn't matter. And to suppress the feelings of difference is just as bad as to overdo them.
Mm.
For example, with Brexit, I mean, when people, Chinese and others ask me, why did Brexit happen? And I've written briefly about that. But clearly one of the reasons, an obvious one, is that the British think of themselves as different.
Yeah.
They they always have done. And this isn't because they're some little chauvinist imperial people living in corners. It's because they are different. I mean, if you take the big markers, if you look at their legal system for 1,000 years, different. Language, different. Religion, different. Economy, different. Political system, different. It's nothing genetic and it's nothing superior. It just happens. The same is true of Japan. It doesn't mean Japan is better than China, but it's clearly in its social organization and politics and economy different. And it doesn't mean that the Scots are better than the English, that some of them are different. It's difference. Now, of course, a lot of it is manufactured, a lot of it is imagined, a lot of it is created, and anthropologists do a lot of work on the creation of myths and traditions. So a lot of Britishness is made up in the 19th century or 18th century. As Trevor Roper used to say, the Scots were invented in the 18th century because it was only then that they started wearing tartan kilts and so on and so on. So there are no such things as Scots, really. And you could say as the English. I mean, Defoe has a lovely poem about how the English really don't exist. They are a terribly ill-begotten. I mean, it's filled with how we are just the products of lustful Danes and lustful Normans, and we are just a hodgepodge of mongrels
Yeah, that's right.
on this island. We're the dregs of Europe who've just. But that doesn't matter. The point is that by chance on an island, something odd happened, not just industrialism and democracy and so on, but a culture which then, and this is the fascinating thing about it and links up to my childhood in Assam, it then by chance was taken to a new continent, America, flourished there, and then through a period of 300 years, it became the world's great, most powerful economic and industrial force and spread with its language, its laws, its customs, its literature, and to a certain extent, its religions all over the planet. If you want to understand anyone anywhere in the world now, one of the clues is Englishness.